All right, guys, we're moving on to the second and third round of the draft. These are tight ends who are currently expected to go in that range. So, day two. And we're starting off with the Oregon State Beaver, 22 years old, Luke Musgrave. Pac 12 player we might be a little bit familiar with. He's big, 6'6", 253 pounds, got pretty long arms, 32 and 5/8 inches, 10 and 3/8 inch hands. Pretty decent combine too for his size. 4.61 works. 1.54 10-yard split is actually really good for his profile. 36-inch vert, 10-foot 5-inch broad. I'll take that. I can live with that. Most of the big boards have him in the second. CBS has him in the third. The Draft Network has him in the first. So the aggregate says mid-second round. And this is with him barely doing anything in 2022 because he only played in 2 games. 11 catches. Still actually produced a lot in those 2 games for whatever it's worth. But unfortunately, his big breakout year just kind of stalled on the runway. The previous year, he only had 22 catches in 10 games, 300 yards, and a touchdown. So you're definitely betting on potential here with Luke Musgrave. But I do believe there is a pretty decent amount of potential here. I mean, the combine kind of speaks for itself. This guy is big, and he can move. He's a very impressive athlete for a guy who's 6'6". He's somebody who can line up in the slot and be productive as a slot receiver as well as lining up in line. He's got great hands. He's got great ball skills. He makes plays on pretty much every ball that goes his way. Nice little catch radius, as they say. He's very dangerous deep down the field when he's running those seam routes down the middle. He's somebody who excelled at producing on those seam routes. He's a decent blocker. I don't think he's a great blocker, but he is decent. He's at least going to put the effort in, stick his nose in there, try. And there's something to be said for that. He uses his blocking to set up plays downfield pretty well. He is somebody who can, start the play blocking and then peel out after chipping and then quickly get open for a dump-off pass and then go make something happen. He's also really good in the red zone, too. So he's a dangerous receiving threat in multiple ways for Oregon State. And I think these things are going to translate to the NFL. He's got the athleticism and size for it, for sure. I do think that his combine scores were better than what he displayed on the field at times. So he's going to have to learn how to... I mean, it's very possible that he would have done these things in 2022 if he played more. But then he only played in a couple games. So we haven't seen full evidence of him utilizing his potential as a player. But we know it's there. I do think that even though he's pretty big, a physical defender can make life hard on him. I do think that he needs to get a little bit stronger at the point of catch. I do think he needs to get a little bit better with his routes. Being able to win against a physical defender who's willing to get up in his grill. I don't think his blocking is great. He's not super strong, and I think that he does things like lose leverage. His footwork isn't great. So he's got room to clean up his blocking at the least. And there just isn't a whole lot of production here, unfortunately. There's only so much I can say about a guy who played 2 games last year. So I like the athletic profile. I think he has upside to be a really good tight end in this league. I think he could. I think this is a guy who caps out as being one of the best tight ends in the league. But he's got a lot to overcome first. He has to improve his blocking. He has to be a smoother athlete on the field. He has to actually produce things that we didn't fully see in college. So I would not take him until the mid to late second area. I think the grade on him is fine. There's just a little too much downside here for me. Okay, now we have Sam LaPorta of the Iowa Hawkeyes, 22 years old. 6'3", 245 pounds, a little bit on the smaller side, 32 and an eighth inch arms, 10 and a quarter inch hands. Ran a just sub 4.6 40, 159 10-yard split, decent. 35-inch vert, 10-foot 3-inch broad, pretty all right. 6.913 cone is actually pretty standout, I think. 4.29 20-yard shuttle, or 4.25 is okay. All the big boards I use have him in the second, except for Sports Illustrated and the Draft Network. They have him in the third, and he currently grades out to being in the second, late second on the aggregate. Very productive the last couple years for Iowa. I think he was by far their leading receiver. Gave you over the last 2 seasons combined 26 games, about 111 catches, and over 1,300 yards. Only 4 touchdowns for whatever it's worth. Did have 12 drops last year. Not a great run block grade, but he's been productive. Not quite Michael Mayer level, but in that ballpark, I guess. So what I can say about LaPorta is that he was a team leader for the Hawkeyes. He was one of their locker room character guys. He's technically sound as a blocker. He understands footwork and leverage and positioning, angles, stuff like that. He was able to produce as an inline tight end and as a slot receiver. So he gives you that versatility that is very coveted in the modern NFL. I think he runs pretty good routes as well. He's got a varied route tree. He can run all the routes across the field. He can run seam routes. He can run go routes. He can run, comebackers. He can run little hooks. He can run all this in-breaking routes, all the different kinds of routes. He's got pretty decent hands. I wouldn't say they're great hands, not over the top, but they're okay. He's got a nice big catch radius. And he uses his power to blow through would-be tacklers, even though he's a little on the small side. So there's a decent amount of power here once he gets the ball in his hands. Now, at the end of the day, I think that he's physically weak when he's blocking at times. He gets pushed around and bullied, even though he tries, and he's technically sound, but he still will get bullied by the stronger defensive players in the league for sure. I think he can get beaten at the point of catch by a physical defender. He doesn't quite put up the fight he needs to make sure he brings the ball in. He is a little bit small. He's got like almost H-back size. And his hands, 6 drops last year in 12 games. That's a drop every other game. He's not getting targeted enough for 6 drops to be okay. Like his drops it's definitely not like a Dalton Kincaid thing where he just doesn't drop anything. No, Sam LaPorta needs to get a little bit better with his hands at least. I think his hands are okay, but they need to get better. And overall, you put it all together, I just don't see much here to get excited about. Gives good effort. He's smart. He has a high IQ. He understands how to get open against zone defense, but there's just not enough here for me to be into. Yeah, he's a pretty good athlete, but he's also smaller, so that counts for a little bit less. So I'm not really seeing much of a point until we get to like the 4th round. I don't know. I'm just not really feeling this guy the way that the initial draft reports are. Spending a late 2nd round pick on him, I just feel like there's a low ceiling here with LaPorta. I just look at LaPorta and I see somebody who will probably never be a really good number 1 tight end in this league. You want to have him as your number 2, and that's if he develops, because he does have a good amount of developing to do just to get to even that point. Okay, one more guy for this video. It's Tucker Kraft. He's the last tight end who has a top 100 grade on him at the moment. A small school guy, South Dakota State Jackrabbits. 22 years old, 6'5", 254 pounds, nice and big, long arms, 32 3/4, 10-inch hands. A little bit on the slow side, 4.6, 940. Good acceleration though, 1.59, 10-yard split. Vert is okay, broad is okay, 3-cone is 20-yard shuttles, So, not a phenomenal athlete, but he is strong. 23 bench press reps speaks to his strength. Some big boards have him in the 2nd, some have him in the 4th, some have him in the 3rd, so he's right around there. The aggregate currently has him in the early 3rd. Part of the reason why he's here, he would be a little bit higher if he didn't have a stunted 2022 where he only played 7 games after having a monster 2021 season. So, the previous year he gave you 65 catches, almost 800 yards, 6 touchdowns. If he replicated that and built on it in 2022, he may have been close to a 1st-round pick, early 2nd round. But as it stands, he's coming off a down year. He gave you 27 catches, 350 yards, 3 touchdowns. Still good, still understandable. He obviously missed more than half the season, and he's had pretty good blocking results. And only a couple drops, but not the season that launched him into the stratosphere that he was hoping for. He's a good inline tight end. He was productive when he lined up as a tight end. And he also lined up in the slot, and he lined up outside. So highly versatile. Going to be able to line up all over the place and win. He's well built. He's got good size. This isn't like a situation where he's one of these H-back 6'3", 6'2" types. He doesn't move great, but he moves fluidly for a man of his size on the football field. I'm impressed with his movement skills. Things look very natural when he's out there. If you throw the ball his way, he's going to at least make a play on it. He's got a nice catch radius. He's got good ball skills. He breaks a lot of tackles after the catch as well. He can run with power and even a little bit of elusiveness, although mostly power, granted. He's excellent at catching short passes and making things happen. He catches those little dump offs. He catches those plays where he like leaks out into the flat after pretending to block for a second. Good at that kind of stuff. He's also a pretty solid blocker. So Tucker Kraft actually has a lot of things that I like. Now, when he's running a route that isn't just like a screen or a little sneak out into the flat, something a little more complex and long running, I don't think his route running's great. His hands could be better. He still has to improve his technique as a blocker. I think he's good, but he can get better. He played weak competition at South Dakota State. And he's a little bit slow, and I do think there is some refinement to be done here. But I like this guy. It's just he's raw. It's going to take a little bit of time to bring the best stuff out of Tucker Kraft. But I think he'll be a really good all-around tight end. He won't have the upper-level athleticism, but he'll still find a way to be productive and a playmaker because he's so good after the catch. So I think that's a little easier to overlook. I'd take him in the third round. I think the third-round grade is appropriate. Can't quite do it in the second because I'm not really trusting what he's going to give you as a rookie. But I look at him and I go, I think he's going to give you something pretty productive as a sophomore or junior. And I think his upside is really well-rounded tight end who's one of the better starting tight ends in the league. All right, those are the round 2 and round 3 guys. Let me know what you guys think. See you guys later on. Go Hawks. Day 3 tight ends tomorrow.